the hidden architecture of perception. Welcome to the journey into the mysterious landscape of human perception. Tonight, we explore how your mind quietly constructs the reality you experience every moment, shaping sensations into the vivid world you inhabit. What feels immediate and direct is actually an intricate creation, built from fragments of information your brain weaves together with remarkable skill. Before you are consciously aware of anything around you, your nervous system has already carried out innumerable acts of editing and interpretation. The raw flood of data pouring in from your eyes, ears, skin, and internal organs is overwhelmingly greater than any conscious mind could handle. Your brain has to make rapid decisions about what deserves attention and what can safely fade into the background. Familiar surroundings lose their detail and become simplified backdrops, while novel or emotionally significant elements leap forward into sharp focus. Even the rhythmic sensations of your own heartbeat and breathing typically vanish from awareness unless something unusual calls them back. This invisible curation happens so smoothly that you rarely notice the gap between raw sensation and conscious experience. The world you experience is in large measure a prediction of your brain, rather than a direct record of the external world. To preserve the impression of continuity, the mind constantly projects into the future, smoothing out gaps before the complete information arrives. When you're reading text, you often know the next word from just a few letters. When you're listening to someone talking, you're usually finishing their sentences in your head well before they get to the end. This predictive machinery extends to vision, too. Once the brain has gotten a general sense of the contours of the scene in front of you, it stops recreating everything from scratch. And, instead, updates a running model with only the tiniest modifications. This is enormously energy efficient and lets you respond incredibly quickly, but it also means that you experience your own expectations more than raw reality. Optical illusions play on this tendency, holding on to misleading cues when a different interpretation would serve better as a match to reality. Your visual system delivers far less information than you probably assume. Each glance across a room samples only a few critical points rather than capturing every detail. The highest resolution portion of your vision covers only a small central patch, while everything else provides only blurred impressions of movement and general shapes. The nerve fibers carrying signals from your retina are limited in number, forcing early compression and summarization. Edges, lines, and changes over time receive priority, while uniform areas get reduced to rough estimates. Yet the world appears richly detailed wherever you look because your brain stitches together multiple quick glimpses cleverly, then fills missing details using memory and expectation. You feel as though everything is visible with perfect clarity simultaneously even though only a fraction ever reaches sharp focus. There is a blind spot in each eye where the optic nerve exits the retina and does not contain light-sensitive cells at all. Images falling on this region do not leave a signal, but you never see an empty dark hole floating in your vision. Your mind completely fills in the gap by smoothly extending nearby colors, textures, and patterns across the missing zone. Simple experiments can reveal the absence. A small object disappears when placed in certain positions, but in everyday life the repair work feels perfectly natural. This quiet invention gives a glimpse of how willing your brain is to create content whenever needed. Every sensation you have ever had has already occurred by the time you are aware of it. Every sound, every sight, every touch must make its journey along the nerves, through processing networks, and into the construction of a moment. Those moments take precious fractions of a second. Rather than present the world in delayed fragments, your brain waits, taking in all that information across a brief window of time and then releasing it all as a single now. Different signals from different senses, arriving at different speeds, are synchronized so they seem simultaneous. Motion is smoothed out so objects in the world don't appear to jump. The present you experience is actually a summary of recent past. The universe has already moved on, slightly. The sense of self you carry may be a guided hallucination. Deep within the mind, innumerable signals about the body, memories, goals, and social world are integrated into one character that feels like you. This character is continuous and solid, yet subtly different from one moment to the next. A shift in mood, posture, or context can make a person feel larger or smaller in a room, more confident or uncertain of themselves, or nearer to or further from their physical body. Certain unusual experiences reveal the fragility of this construction. When senses are disrupted or conflicting information arrives, individuals sometimes report having floated out of their body or that parts of their limbs are owned by someone else. You see with your brain rather than with your eyes. Eyes are sophisticated sensors collecting patterns of light. Those patterns carry no meaning, however, until they are interpreted by regions at the back of your head. There, electrical activity converts edges into shapes, shapes into objects, and objects into meaningful scenes. If parts of this system are damaged, a person may have healthy eyes but be unable to recognize faces or see motion as freeze frames. On the other hand, direct stimulation of these brain regions can give rise to flashes of color or simple forms even in complete darkness. Hearing is in part a product of educated guesses that the brain makes. When somebody speaks in a noisy environment, the sound reaching your ears is messy and full of competing voices, yet you effortlessly pick out familiar words. The human nervous system doesn't simply record the vibrations but rather seeks out patterns that match up with language it already knows. When pieces of a sentence are masked by noise, listeners often report hearing a complete phrase as if the missing fragment had been present all along. The mind seems to insert expected sounds into gaps, smoothing them into the flow of speech. Touch becomes a story that your brain pieces together from scattered signals. On the skin, many receptors sense pressure, stretch, vibration, temperature, and chemical changes, each sending its own stream of information through separate pathways. These impulses turn up at different times and with different intensities, yet they are stitched together into single sensations. Context counts enormously. A light touch is pleasurable when it originates from a trusted person but frightening when it is unexpected. Even the shape of an object resting in your palm isn't directly sensed as a whole but is assembled from tiny details gathered from individual points. Your sense of balance choreographs movement, fluid, and forecast. Deep in your ears, tiny canals are filled with liquid and studded with delicate hair cells that bend when you move your head. Other nearby structures contain small crystals that tug on sensors as gravity pulls them. Signals from these organs then combine to join information from muscles and joints reporting how your limbs are positioned, plus visual cues about the horizon and space around you. When these systems don't match up, as might occur when you're on spinning amusement park rides or at sea, dizziness or nausea ensues. Color only exists within your mind. Even though it feels like a property of the outer world, color starts as nothing other than different wavelengths of light entering your eye. The wavelengths themselves have no hue, just energy in motion. Specialized cells inside the retina fire with these differences, sending complex patterns to the brain. Those signals mix with memories, expectations, and context to create something real and vivid. One shade can vary greatly depending on ambient light or neighboring objects. Time stretches and contracts according to the way one pays attention to it. The proportion of moments slipping by is not determined by some inner clock ticking away consistently but is sculpted instead by changing patterns of attention, emotion, and surprise. While deeply engrossed in something engaging, minutes slide by almost unnoticed. When waiting around for an expected event, every second may seem too long. Novelty often makes experiences seem longer because the brain collects more information when it is forming new memories, thereby stretching the estimated length of the intervals after the fact. In frightening incidents, people sometimes report that everything happened in slow motion because the brain collects information at a faster rate. Motion you perceive is partly invented so the world feels stable. Every time an object shifts across your field of view, your eyes make rapid adjustments to track its position. These movements are quick and frequent, yet they do not register as jarring jumps. Instead, your brain smooths the sequence into continuous flow. Even motion created by your own eye movements while scanning a scene gets erased from awareness so that the world appears still. When visual frames fail to arrive in perfect order, your mind fills gaps with predicted positions, creating an illusion of constant speed. Every time you remember a memory, you alter it. Memories appear to be frozen snapshots, but they are living, breathing structures in your brain, changing subtly each time they're retrieved. Remembering something makes it temporarily pliable. The memory mixes with all the thoughts, emotions, and interpretations of the present, after which it gets put away again in a somewhat different form. Small tweaks accumulate over years, and the story you think you know about past events gradually morphs into something different. Feelings determine what stays salient and what gets forgotten. Your brain picks what counts well before you are aware of making a choice. As you go about your day, hundreds of sensations flood into your senses every second. Before any can be interpreted as meaningful, the deeper brain structures sort them in milliseconds, amplifying what seems important and muting what does not. A sudden movement in your peripheral vision can yank attention before you've even registered what it is. That filtering enables you to act fast, while protecting your mind from being swamped by sensory messages. Attention only selects a very small portion of the world at any moment. Even though you feel that you are surrounded by a detailed environment, the amount that you can consciously appreciate is extremely small. Your attention acts somewhat like a beam of light falling on one area and leaving all other regions in soft shadow. When that beam falls on an object or an idea, all other information just disappears, even if it falls within your field of vision. Individuals who are focused on a task usually do not notice large changes occurring around them. Your senses are in constant competition for dominance. When sight, sound, and touch all provide different interpretations of the same situation, the brain has to decide which sense to believe. Usually vision is the winner, since it provides detailed information on both shape and movement, but sometimes sound takes precedence over what you see, or your sense of touch overrides misleading signals from your eyes. Sometimes senses combine their inputs to give utterly new sensations. Smell is more emotionally charged than any of the senses. A faint odor can open up long-forgotten memories of years ago. This power comes from the fact that olfactory pathways go directly into the brain regions involved in emotion and memory without much processing layer in between. The smell of soil after rain may recall afternoons playing as a child, while a hint of perfume may remind one of someone not seen in a long while. In dreams, a world is revealed that is constructed entirely out of the inside of one's mind. Your mind slips into a mode where the normal flow of sensory information no longer reaches it, and yet it keeps generating an incredibly detailed universe replete with scenery, voices, movement, and emotion. None of these stem from without. They well up from memory fragments, instinctive patterns, and spontaneous neural activity that your brain puts together into scenes through which you travel as if they were real. Perception changes notably when you are tired. Fatigue affects how your senses gather and interpret information. Colors can fade, and details may be blurred with a shift of your brain into the mode of conservation. The world feels a bit more distant or muted, due to sustained attention. Decision-making leans increasingly on expectation when your mind bridges gaps automatically without processing every last detail. Expectation has as much to do with the sensation of weight as the physical force applied. Your brain makes a rapid estimate before lifting, using size, appearance, and past experience. This sets up the expectation, influencing the sensation the instant you pick it up. If you expect something heavy, it may well feel lighter than expected, giving a little jolt of surprise. If you expect it to be light, it can feel heavier than it really is. Your mind can create sounds that never entered your ears. In a high state of concentration or in the absence of noise, people may hear low murmurs, faint tones, or imaginary voices perceived as originating from outside of the head. These phenomena occur because your auditory system never truly stops exercising, even when the external world becomes quiet. The neurons responsible for detecting sounds continue their firing, albeit in subtle patterns, and whenever these patterns align in certain ways, your brain interprets them as noise. Emotion changes the world you perceive. Your emotional state acts as a quiet filter across all your senses, changing in each instant how you interpret the world. Joy may make colors feel warmer and more saturated, while sadness may soften the palate and make sounds heavier. Anxiety sharpens your attention to small details, movements seem quicker, unexpected noises much louder. As your awareness settles and night deepens, you may feel the soft echo of everything discovered here. Your mind is a great landscape, always weaving sensation into meaning, always finding beauty in the tiniest details. Even now, as your consciousness grows quiet, your senses continue to soften the world around you, shaping each moment into something calm and comforting. Let your breath slow, let the day slip away, and let the quiet carry you toward rest.